Appointment and Government Investigation. We would like to welcome Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Appointee Representative Mr. Oliver Gonzalez, I believe the acting SA of the administration, along with Ami, and I'm sorry, Joyce, Jolene, and the appointee Mr. Joseph C. Guerrero, elected officials, dignitaries, and members of the general public. Before we proceed forward with this public hearing, let me first introduce the members of the standing committee. To my right side of the aisle is the floor leader of the Senate, Senator Dauno Manglonia from the 1st Senatorial District, Rhoda. And next to him is Senator Manning Castro from the 3rd Senatorial District, Saipan. And to my left side of the aisle is the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Carl Neighbors from the island of Tinian. And next to him is Senator Ron Cabo from the 1st Senatorial District, Rhoda. And next to him is Senator Corina Magofnia from the 3rd Senatorial District, Saipan. And I'm the chairman of this standing committee, Senator Francisco Q. Cruz from the 2nd Senatorial District, Tinian. I would also like to announce a couple of things in the interest of informational purposes regarding code of conduct during this public hearing. Today, the members of this standing committee is conducting a public hearing on the appointment of Mr. Joseph C. Guerrero to serve as a member of the Maranas Visitors Authority to represent the 3rd Senatorial District. The public will be invited to make comments as to whether you support or oppose the appointee before us this afternoon. We value your input. However, any comments beyond the facts of the appointee or comments that are not directly related with this public hearing will not be entertained, and such comment will be removed from the record. At the same time, please observe minimal noises in disrupting this hearing process, and please turn off your electronic into a silent mode. Thank you. Let us now begin. This public hearing is now in session. Today is June 12, 2025 at approximately 1:08 in the afternoon here at the Honorable Sus P. Mofnas Memorial Building, Senate Chamber, Capitol Hill, Saipan. This is a public hearing regarding the appointment of Mr. Joseph C. Guerrero by Governor Arno Palacios and Lieutenant Governor David Apatang to serve as a member of the Maranas Visitors Authority to represent the 3rd Senatorial District. Mr. Devin Macronas will be assisting us on this public hearing. Benter Elahi and Mr. Tenorio will be our Sergeant at Arms. Mr. Bomudis will be our legal counsel for this afternoon, and for social media for this public hearing is LJ Castro. IT is Jonathan Diaz, and will all serve accordingly. Devin, can you please call the roll?
Senator Ronnie M. Calvo.
Present.
Senator Manny T. Castro.
Estia.
Senator Francisco Q. Cruz.
Here.
Senator Jude U. Hofschneider. Senator Carl R. King Neighbors.
Here.
Senator Karina L. Magofnia.
Present.
Senator Donald M. Maglonia.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, there are 6 members present and 1 member absent.
Thank you, Devin. With 6 members present, we have the necessary number to proceed with the public hearing. However, Senator Schneider is excused for this hearing. This time, do we hear a motion to adopt our agenda?
Motion to adopt agenda. Second.
There's a motion for the adoption of our agenda and was seconded. All in favor of that motion, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. At this time, I would like to ask the Sergeant at Arms to please escort the appointee and the governor's rep into the chamber. And again, sir, before you proceed with your testimony or the introduction of the appointee this afternoon, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
anticipate tun chairman malago zubi recognize ang kuton santi rate menyetlu zani familia ni mangaigi zani mangatsung gisantati. Hafade and welcome family. Hafade Tiro, Chairman, Honorable Chairman Francisco Q. Cruz, and the honorable members of the EAGI committee. Amaga tumaluan ni Hamzo, laluas amamay ngali kami. Guahui lahin midzu itetlun midzu, ibisinun midzu si John Oliver de los Reyes Gonzalez Bolis, Acting Special Assistant for Administrative Services, gipapa ipadzun iofisinan Magatlahi, gi Office of the Governor. In cuenta di Honorably Magatlahi as Arnold I. Palacios, zani segundo na Magatlahi as Honorable Lieutenant Governor David M. Apatang, sinsidzo nagradecimento puri finat incumbida ham mogi para bayhu toma hamzu padiset zata introduce i maganzi no ni gobyerno zani segundo na gobyerno para in sinsura in kula i kwalifikasyon niya i dinesihu niya zan i minalago niya gwinifi niya para utsogwi gi MVA Board of Directors. So without no further ado, it's my sincere pleasure to introduce the nomination of Mr. Joseph Cabrera Guerrero, the Governor and Lieutenant Governor's nominee for the Marianas Authority, Visitors Authority MVA Board of Directors. I trust you all should have received the requisite documents, not the least of which includes his resume or vita, which outlines his professional experience and education, and equally important, his identified goals and desires as a member of the MVA Board of Directors, particularly with respect to innovative ideas and transformative solutions to gradually but assuredly work towards a strategic approach with luta tinian sa ipan, adyan mga tafan malifay islangoni isang katansiya, to address the regressive state of our tourism industry with haphazard airline seat capacity, diminishing pool of would-be tourists that we can attract and invite, instituting necessary swift improvements to our products offering and rebranding as a truly unmatched, unique island resort destination, unlike any other. I want us to focus on that. Unlike any other. To attract tourists through relentless competitive branding and marketing strategies. Si Mr. Guerrero is an esteemed and respected senior executive and business owner whose exemplary professional background underscores his extensive experience and unwavering commitment to the private sector. With over 2.5 decades of successful involvement in the development, ownership, leadership, investment, and property management of commercial assets and hospitality in the Commonwealth, through his prior workplaces and employers, his own business, and now, of course, with the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Guerrero possesses a thorough and comprehensive understanding of the industry. He holds an MBA from the University of Oregon, and incidentally, we went to school at the same time, he entering and me graduating in Pullman, Washington, in Wazoo. Go Cougs! Which we lovingly call Wazoo, yeah? And given his impressive qualifications, steadfast dedication, capabilities, itiningot niya, imenhalom niya, iyantaw na minalago niya pafanazuda, keen understanding of the private business sector, and renewed passion for serving the Commonwealth. Mr. Guerrero is poised as the ideal candidate for this role. Lest we forget, he also served in the Commonwealth Public Utilities Commission. I remembered a little back in 2012 to 2016, absolutely. And Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apatang have expressed their complete trust and confidence in Mr. Guerrero to serve on the MBA Board of Directors. I trust and I guarantee that he's prepared to address any inquiries and outlines his strategic vision for the future with respect to revitalizing the tourism industry. And we respectfully request your prompt approval of his nomination. Thank you, Jesus Masi and Hiliso, for the opportunity to and the privilege to introduce him to this august body. Tiro Faisro, Atay Hinehi, Ati-atihan.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Gonzalez. And before I recognize the appointee, Mr. Guerrero, can you please stand and raise your right hand? So Mr. Marquarnes can administer the oath.
Mr. Joseph C. Guerrero, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Mr. Guerrero, I know that you have complied with the committee to submit all required documents, but if you have anything else that you wish to share with us, you have the floor, but please state your name for the record before you start. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, John Gonzalez, por if you know mo. Buenas tardes, Honorable Chair Francisco Cruz, Vice Chair King Neighbors, and Honorable Senators of the Senate Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am honored and humbled to be considered for confirmation to serve on the Marianas Visitors Authority Board of Directors. And I thank Governor Arnold Palacios and Lieutenant Governor David Apatang for their nomination and placing their trust in me. A few years ago, in 2021, in partnership with MVA and the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, I spearheaded the launch of the first Hafades and Tiro Pledge, a program to develop, promote, and support the Northern Marianas Hafades and Tiro spirit. The pledge requires a deeper commitment and taking more responsibility to embrace and promote the unique cultural traditions and values of our Northern Marianas. The pledge includes a call to be united, tafanunuha sibuitipio, bringing together the private sector, public sector, and individuals in a commitment for the preservation and promotion of the Chamorro and Carolinian language, culture, traditions, by taking efforts every day to make a difference in the survival of these cultures. The Hafades and Tiro Pledge is open to everyone who calls the Marianas home. In practically every MVA strategic plan, it is clearly stated that visitors to our islands are looking for authentic cultural interactions and hope to connect with her indigenous people. Unfortunately, parts of these strategic plans appear to have fallen on deaf ears and perhaps victim to self-serving priorities. However, today, that the Hafades and Tiro Pledge program remains dormant. But what is not dormant is my resolve to garner renewed support in making this a key priority at MVA, within our government and our community. After meetings with MVA Managing Director Jamaica Tyrone and learning of her vision and plans to help reshape and, in her words, reset our #1 industry, I am encouraged to join the MVA board. Also encouraging is the recent strong collaboration between MVA and the Commonwealth Ports Authority in working to address airline service development and other matters of mutual concern. As much as the pledge program is important for all of us, a well-known fundamental priority for our visitor industry is air service to our islands. As you are all aware, without immediate additional air service from our tourism source markets, the visitor industry will continue to struggle tremendously. Governor Palacios is taking this matter very seriously, and this is the key reason why he asked me to help the CNMI by serving on the MVA board. He asked me to please help in close collaboration with CPA in attracting additional flights from existing carriers, as well as working with the new airlines who have shown interest in our destination. With support and encouragement from my family, and my wife Eleanor, and my my two sons, my mother Rita and father Tony, who happens to be a former MVA board chair, my friends and colleagues, I'm here before this honorable committee ready and willing to serve Itautauta to the best of my ability. Tourism has been close to my heart since childhood. In 1981, my parents Rita and Tony were among the early pioneers of our tourism industry. They created Chamorro Village overlooking Laulau Bay, which became a premier attraction for thousands of Japanese visitors. That same year, at 7 years old, I held my first job in the tourism industry, pulling weeds, helping at the piggery, and cleaning up cigarette butts after sold-out Friday night cultural shows. It was there I saw firsthand how a well-crafted visitor experience could uplift not only the guests, but also the lives of our local employees. Those early observations and lessons stuck with me through my 25 plus years in business and economic development. So whether through my consulting work, my time on the Chamber of Commerce Board, the Public Utilities Commission, or running Naked Fish Bar and Grill, I've remained committed to building value in our community. If confirmed, I'll bring that same dedication to the MVA board with humility, open ears, and a steady focus on sustainable, inclusive growth para Luta, Tinian, Saipan, and the Northern Islands. Si Jesus Masi Giliso for your time and consideration. I welcome any questions you may have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. At this time, I'd like to recognize those entities that are invited to participate. The Executive Director of the Marianas Visitors Authority, Ms. Jamaica Tyrone. Is she here?
Hafide Tirawami, and good afternoon, Chairman Cruz, members of the committee, and everybody here today. My name is Jamaica Regis Tyron. I'm the Managing Director of the Marianas Visitors Authority. On behalf of the MVA and of our Board of Directors, I'm pleased to express our strong support for the appointment of Mr. Joe C. Guerrero to the MVA Board. Joe's appointment comes at a critical time for our islands. Tourism in the Marianas is still in recovery. Visitor arrivals are down 26% from last year due to many reasons, including the strong US dollar to our source market, airline fleet shortages, fierce competition, and reduced tourism products on the island. These are not small hurdles, but they are challenges we believe we can overcome with the right people on our team. Joe is one of these people. Many of you know him as a longtime board president of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, where he has been a consistent and respected voice for our local business community. But what stands out even more is his ability to navigate complex issues, build consensus, and advocate for solutions that make sense for both the public and the private sectors. At MVA, we're shifting focus. We're shifting gears. We're rethinking our tourism strategies, looking at how we can enhance the visitor experience, support long-term sustainability, and attract investment to our islands to support tourism and our economy. These strategies require collaboration and leadership. It requires skills in balancing economic realities with strategic vision. With his track record of thoughtful leadership and cross-sector insight, Joe is exactly the kind of board member that we need to move these priorities forward. The road ahead won't be easy, and we appreciate Joe's willingness to jump in and lend his expertise during this critical period. His steady leadership and collaborative spirit will help us rebuild our tourism sector and reposition the Marianas as not just a great place to visit, but a great place to invest, to live, and to grow. We respectfully ask for your favorable and timely confirmation of his appointment. Sizuz Masi, Olamwai, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyrone. At this time, I'd like to recognize the member of the board of director. Anyone that is here? No one? This time I'd like to open the floor for public comment. But again, as I mentioned earlier, that any comments that is raised that are not directly related, we will not entertain them and will remove them from the record. At this time, I open the floor for public comment. Anyone in the gallery? Family member, MBA family? You're welcome to come forward and deliver testimony whether you're in support, most especially from MBA. We want to know whether you guys are comfortable that Mr. Guerrero should serve in this capacity.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman, Honorable Senators, members of and friends of Joe Guerrero. Joe, how are you? Don't be so nervous. It's not your first rodeo. Hafide, good afternoon. I'm honored to be here to speak in strong support of, my name is Ed Probst. I'm here as a friend of the family and a big supporter of Joe Guerrero. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm honored to speak in strong support of Joe Guerrero, the president of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, for a seat on the Marinas Visitors Authority Board. Joe is a proven leader who deeply understands both our business community and the reality of tourism right now in the Marianas. He has consistently championed local businesses, large and small, and worked directly with hotels, restaurants, tour operators, and all small, medium, and large businesses across the Commonwealth and beyond. His commitment to responsible tourism is clear. Joe has led efforts in environmental stewardship, supporting all kinds of activities, and always encouraging eco-friendly business initiatives. He knows that our island's future depends on balancing growth, but with cultural and environmental preservation. Joe also excels at building partnerships across government, business, and education to strengthen tourism and our local workforce. He is a very respected voice, trusted by the community and influential well beyond our shores. I know that with Joe Guerrero on the board, the MVA gains a leader who brings experience, vision, and genuine dedication to our island's growth and well-being. And from a personal perspective, I've had the great pleasure of knowing Joe as one of my best friends and dear friends, somebody that we've always relied on. And I'm not the only one. I think if you look at Joe's support throughout the community, it's extensive and it's impressive, and I'm deeply in awe and in gratitude. But I also appreciate how he fights for small businesses. He is a small business owner, and he's gone through the struggles, and he knows what it takes to get us back on track. I also appreciate the ideas that he brings to the table. So many times we've talked about things. We've collaborated when I served in the legislature, and he volunteered so much time of his. But beyond that, he's a fantastic family man, a dedicated family man who always finds time for family and friends. And I don't like to talk about it because I always get choked up. But we are most grateful. And I think that he's going to do a fantastic job at MVA. Anywhere he goes, he always gives 110%. And I'm amazed at how he has such great skills at time management. Because regardless of how busy he gets, he always finds time for friends and family and still manages to volunteer and help out this community. So, in conclusion, Joe, you're taking on another monumental task, and I stand with you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Probst. Still open for public comment. Anyone else in the gallery? Once we close public comment, we'll not go back to public comment again. So this is the chance to come forward. Whether you're in support or not, you're welcome to come forward and deliver your testimony. No one else? At this time, public comment is now closed. At this time, I'd like to recognize from the 3rd Senatorial District, Senator Castro. You wish to give it to Senator Magofnia then?
Suzus Masi, Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Guerrero, and to your friends and families who are here with you today in support of your nomination for the board at MVA. I would like to first congratulate you on the nomination, and second, thank you for taking on additional responsibilities and commitment to a monumental task that's ahead of you. So thank you for making the time to help the CNMI. Great resume. No doubts there about your credentials, education, professional background. So I'll just move along to the question at hand, which is I'm looking at the citizen-centric report for FY24 on OPA's website, and I'm just going to read out real quick what MVA's mission is. According to this report, MVA's mission is to promote and develop the Marianas as a premier destination of choice for visitors from throughout the world while providing a maximum quality of life for our people. Now, that mission in itself is, a huge undertaking, but with the confidence and professionalism that the board members have, as well as the managing director, I'm wholeheartedly confident that you guys do the best that you can to try and improve our destination. So, based on your professional background and experiences, Finu John Oliver, Hafa Gwinifemu para MVA to improve and enhance the destinations so that we can call it a premier destination. Thank you.
This is Mossy, Senator, and I apologize, Chairman Cruz. I failed to follow your first instruction. I hope it's not a sign, but I failed to state my name in the beginning. My name is Joseph Cabrera Guerrero. I had to respond to your question on what are my dreams for MVA. In general, there are a lot of ideas already in the books. There are a lot of plans, a lot of strategic plans. We paid a lot of money for those, time and effort and resources. And what often happens with these plans is they never are executed. So to answer your question, my initial task, among others, such as developing air service, is to really look at those plans and ensure that we don't miss things that are out there already right in front of us, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel and really work towards executing it. And looking at our budgets, our budget, how we prioritize our resources, make sure that there's a good return on investment for everything that we do, and we manage our limited resources and get the best, so to speak, bang for our buck. The other thing that I would like to see MVA is to really work better with the community. Coming from the outside, I've always been a member of MVA, just as a regular member business, and oftentimes I would hear criticisms of MVA that they are sometimes too focused on certain interests and certain types of tours or properties or tourist attractions, and I think they could do a better job in reaching out to the community and engaging with the community in all three islands to really make sure that this is a whole community effort. and it's not just left to people on the board to make all these decisions and strategies on how to move forward. So in a nutshell, collaboration, right? Collaboration with everyone, including the legislature, which determines, budgets and policies. So I hope I answered your question satisfactorily.
You did. Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I know that I think a month or so ago, the managing director came out and shared with the community that they are focusing on rebranding the Marianas, which I think is very key. And in your statement earlier, you mentioned that, when you met with her, based on the conversations that you guys had, it encouraged you to join the team as well. And so I was wondering, you also talked about the authentic cultural interaction, which I think is somewhat lacking in part of the experience that we provide. I think it's common knowledge that when visitors visit other places, they look forward to experiencing not just the food, but the culture, right? So whatever practices they may have, traditions, it's what makes it exciting and memorable, right? And yes, we do have our Chamorro and Carolingian dancers performing, but I think we need to make sure that we incorporate them more in our packages, maybe with our hotels, and just making sure that they are always well represented in all the festivals and activities that MVA participates in, which I'm pretty sure the managing director is already focusing on that. So I'm glad that you brought that part of the conversation up. But what are some of your concept or ideas and plans that you would like to incorporate into that vision with regards to cultural interactions?
Thank you for that question. I was part of the branding workshop this morning on the private sector side, and I believe there's one for government agencies in a few minutes, too. But I'm very in full support of the branding initiative. Looking back at our experience, right, we started in the 1980s as a tourist destination right after the beginning of the Commonwealth. We wanted to market ourselves to the world. Japan was one of the first markets that we were able to attract and did very well with that. But at the beginning of our history, we didn't know who we were and what we wanted to do. I mean, we were barely a new territory, figuring out how to govern ourselves as a Marianas. So not much, I guess, emphasis and attention was placed in how we want to shape our product, how people are going to see ourselves. So we often adopted Polynesian cultural dances, for example. Whatever we thought tourists, and at that time Hawaii was already booming with tourists, so say, hey, if tourists are they love that show in Hawaii, let's replicate that here. So we did that, and no discredit to those that did, including my parents, the Chamorro village. But it was just, we were just trying things out, right? Trying to be something that maybe we shouldn't have been, right? We were just reacting rather than saying, hey, we want to be this. This is what we want to showcase. Now there's an effort. We want to showcase the Sacman, our celestial navigation heritage, which is very unique. No one else has this other than our brothers and sisters in Micronesia and Hawaii. So, let's start to determine what we want the world to see rather than what the world wants to see. The time people were buying luxury goods and DFS came in. Thank you, DFS. But, we were just always reacting. People want to shop. Okay, let's build a shopping center. But we never really sat back and think, hey, what do we want? What do we want to show? And at times, many of the really nice cultural places, like the Taga House in Tinian, it looks nice in the last decade, but many places, even in Luta, they were just overgrown. It's like we almost didn't care about the Alari stone only until kind of recently, where we started taking pride in our ancient history. So, really, I would like to see us kind of reset, go back to our roots, and through this branding effort, and through continuous discussion of who we want as a Chamorro and Carolingian indigenous population. What do we want people to see when they leave our islands? What do they want to remember? Right? Do we want them to remember that they bought a Louis Vuitton bag, or do we want them to remember that they bought, a locally made weaved, bag, right? So Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. You actually hit it right on the nail, and which is what I was looking for, right? Because we're always trying to figure out, well, how can we get their visitors to our destination? It's really, the question is, what do we want them to remember when they leave us, right? And so this is why we need to have more community engagement in the process, and also make sure that we have local vendors at our airport to set up, small shops, so that when our visitors are leaving, they can buy some stuff to remember us by. Sometimes they don't pay attention to stuff like that because they just arrive and they want to just get to the hotel and rest, and then, but on their way out is when they're actually, while they're waiting for their flights, is when they're gonna probably start buying stuff to bring back home with them,
And
so that they could share. And it's amazing how the word of mouth is so powerful, so much more powerful than sometimes marketing, right, online and stuff. Because when you go by word of mouth, right, you're vouching for the experience that you just had to your friends, to your family. So who better to believe than the person that's telling it, who just came from that place. So thank you for that vision. I guess at this point you kind of answered everything that I just wanted to know from your perspective, should you be confirmed. So thank you. And if you wanted to add anything else.
Sure,
Feel free.
if I may, again, to answer your question more directly on what are sort of my plans to make some of these changes. Again, they're not my unique plans, but I know of initiatives which I truly support, and the new managing director's vision to really incorporate true, authentic, cultural and environmentally conscious experiences. In the branding workshop this morning, I spoke about how we're actually behind the ball when it comes to developing our tourism product. Many places in Asia, I was recently in Spain, and what people often do now is they travel in small groups. So they book free independent travelers like myself. We go and book different, whether it's we want to see a museum. We don't go in a big tour bus filled with 100 people. And we book small groups of 6 people with our own tour guide. And that's what's happening everywhere in our competitive markets in Asia. They go in these small groups. But I think as a destination here, we actually lost that, and we're actually really behind. We don't have a lot of tour groups where you can book on your own, both for locals and visitors. So the managing director is undertaking an initiative, and I'll let her share more about that because that's her area, but to share how we can integrate everything from marmar making to talaza throwing to just all these unique cultural experiences that we can do with very little capital. We don't need big structures or infrastructure, and we can do those easily, but through the use of digital technology, we can basically connect these people that can provide these services, quality experiences, to our visitors, so we can catch up with the rest of our competitors.
I agree, and I'm glad that you recognize that, because I think part of the role for MVA is to observe what's going on outside, right, and understand the dynamics of the tourists, the visitors. Tourists from 10, 15 years ago are completely different from tourists nowadays. There's that generational shift, and to them, we have to understand who our market is and what it is that they're looking for, but also being very authentic and genuine in our own way. And I bring that up because I was talking to one of the tourists, and I believe they were from, there's a family from Korea, and I believe MVA was there to participate in some expo or something like that. And they brought with them some Chamorro Caribbean dancers to do a little preview. And so they were so excited by the show that they booked a trip to the CNMI to, experience more of the culture. But to their surprise, when they stayed at the at World Resort and they attended the dinner show, and they were very disappointed to see that whatever they saw in Korea was nothing that they saw at World Resort. And they actually went to the dinner 3 times, just thinking that maybe that night was a different show, and maybe the next day it would be the show that they saw there. But unfortunately, that's not what they experienced, and they were really looking forward to try more of our traditional food and just seeing more what our culture offers. So I think you guys are on the right direction, with Jamaica taking the lead. And I'm very confident that you guys will come out successful with this new branding and making sure that we are incorporating our culture, into that vision. So thank you for your answer. And that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Magofnia. Now I would like to recognize Senator Castro.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Joe, for your time today. In line with the question posed earlier, this morning we had a nominee for the Department of Public Lands. And MVA and DPL, CEDA, NMC, I feel like we really need to synergize our efforts, because as Senator Magofnia explained earlier, the product that the tourists were expecting was not available. So just my, one thing that I always remember in when I first started working at NMC, and it's relevant to our situation right now, because when I was at NMC, my first year working there, I was hired as the enrollment manager, which is in charge of recruitment, retention, and basically one thing we always looked at is the data-driven decision making for continuous quality improvement. And as every time we come into the airport, there's that survey that we fill out, and now even more, there's customs components to it. How often are we looking at that data? And given your background, I know that we can get there, but also not just the cultural experience, but the infrastructure of our tourism. You alluded to the 90s. I was young, but I remember like the 747s, JAL, Northwest Airlines, Continental Air Micronesia with their DC-9s and 10s coming in. The airport was packed, and the buses were all packed. But now, as tourists are more like independent travelers, when you arrive at the airport, usually the low-cost carriers arrive early in the morning, and you don't have that kind of infrastructure. Like for someone that's traveling independent, it's not like Hong Kong or Korea or Thailand. When you arrive, there's multiple transportation options, whether it's rail or bus or Grab, and the cost of taxis here, the legal ones, are for a small island. So the two questions I wanted to ask you, because we always have a lot of plans, but our challenge in our government is implementing, and at the same time utilizing the data that's available, utilizing the local talent that's here, which I'm excited for the leadership that's coming in, but I just hope that we really move forward in terms of involving our local community in the product, in designing the product. Like when, right now with the lease in Maniagaha, it's always we're looking at a mutually exclusive contract. Why not involve different performers to perform on Maniagaha, local, whether Chamorro or Carolinian, and also those that can provide like concessions, like food concessions, but vetted, right? Using the resources from whether it's NMTI, NMC, public health, to make sure that this is not just crackerjack kind of operation, but it's a legit, vetted, local, culturally relevant experience. And then at the same time, marketing. Right now Google ads are very big, and I know this is also, you have experience in this, but daily I see Bikini Island ads on Saipan for kind of like trying to convert our tourists to go to their version of Maniagawa. Like, so literally Guam is saving money by just putting their pinpoint marketing on Saipan. So when our tourists come here, they can see, like what's available on Guam. And Maniagaha has always been a big seller, but I know it's not necessarily directly under MVA, but it's that experience like Maniagaha right now, like there's a lot of birds there, and some sanitation concerns and lack of infrastructure, but yet we keep promoting come to Maniagaha, but when they come here, it's not what we're promoting. So I hope that with your leadership and the team, when we once this is all through, that we can really look at the data and also implement and also involve our community, because all that money that came in with previously, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir because you're a small business owner too, but I saw a lot of restaurants close down in Garapan. But just as as someone also who once in a while travels to other places, as a tourist, you don't want to spend all your time in the hotel. We need to start really investing outside of the hotel. And I thank the administration for all these new infrastructure developments, but in your capacity, I hope that you can continue to collaborate with local vendors, and also whether Chamorro or Carolinian, but the main thing is the product needs to be replicate what the tourists are expecting, and we can design it in that way. Okay, so if anything you wanted to add to that, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Castro. Going back to why I brought up the Hafades and Tiro pledge, because I think that's one of the key cornerstones to what a lot of people are saying already, and that's like the Hafade and Tiro pledge. It was supposed to be a foundational program that makes people kind of, it's like a rally call, right? It's a program that everybody, whatever we do, whatever, I send out emails to my associates out in the States, and I never say dear or good morning. It's always Hafade or Tiro. When I go to Hawaii, I get greeted only aloha, right? When I go to the Philippines, mabuhay, in Korea. So when visitors come here, they don't want to hear hello. I get down from the airport from United, the first thing, good morning, hello, and I respond half a day. So these are little fundamental changes that don't cost money. We just need to tell people. People get off the plane, even the United, they have to greet them in half a day. Not thank you for, because when you go to Hawaii on United, they say aloha when you step off the plane, even the United staff. But why when they come over here? So these are the things. It's about really implementing it at every facet, from the airlines to the tour agencies to our own government. Every government operator that answers the phone should say half a day, not good morning. When did we start saying good morning, right? I mean, I'm older, so I remember when people actually said half a day when buenas when they answered the telephone. So and that's what I think is gonna make us unique, when the half a day and Tiro and our culture is perpetuated everywhere. Like you turn left, you see it. You turn right, you see it. You go there, you can taste it. You can feel it. You can hear it. So it sounds very, kumbaya-ish, but it's important because other places have done it well. Hawaii has done it well. It's not by accident that anywhere you go, it's aloha. It's not like they love to say aloha all day. It's because for many years they've trained and integrated from the school system to everywhere in their community that the aloha spirit. So we just, again, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just copying what's worked elsewhere, like Hawaii. So, and Guam actually I copied the Hafade and Tiro pledge from Guam, the Guam pledge. They don't even in Guam it's called the Hafade pledge, but here it's Hafades and Tiro, right, for two indigenous populations. So in Palau, they have the Palau Pledge. Theirs is a little bit different, right? It's about environmental stewardship, but it's still about respect for culture. Even within the Hawaiian Islands, each of the islands have their own pledge because they have their own unique sort of perspective on what it means to be from Kauai or Maui, for example. So we could have the Luta Pledge or the Tinian Pledge, right? But it's just something so that when tourists come, they feel they're a part of it. It's unique. You're not gonna find another Tinian Pledge anywhere in the world, or another Half a Days and Tiro Pledge. It's unique, something to call our own. Um, so that's what I wanted to add. But thank you for your comments and encouragement. There's definitely a lot of work to be done. I don't have a lot of the answers or all of the answers, but we should try to find as many. And again, it's more than finding the answers, right? It's execution. Plans are only good as, you know, as they're only as good as they can be executed, right? So, and the governor, in speaking with him, the governor actually asked me to be on different boards since he came on to office, and I kept on, declining him because I'm just so busy. But last month he struck me and he called me into his office, and he said, "Joe, we're dying here. We need your help. We need more Joes to step up and volunteer unpaid to help out." So I answered the call. I felt his sincerity in really wanting to help, and so I'm here now before you and grateful for the opportunity. So I'll do my best, sir.
Thank you. Chair, you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. I would like to recognize Floor Leader Manglonia.
Thank you, Chair Cruz, and congratulations on your appointment, Mr. Guerrero. I did want to bring up something you mentioned in your opening, which is the authentic cultural experience. Can you explain to someone coming in where can they find that authentic cultural experience today, if they were to come in today?
It's very hard, but I think maybe just a handful. One of them, top of my mind, is the 500 sails sailing on the Sakman. And then again, maybe some of the festivals that we have, but those are not every day, right? Even like Senator Magofnian mentioned about seeing the dances, the Carolinian dances in Korea, and then they come here and they can't see it anymore because they were not at the flame. They didn't come at the same time as the Flame Chief, for example. But what if there was a place where you could actually learn how to do some of those performances on any day of the week, right? So to answer your question, that's the problem. There's not enough. It's not available, and that's what the team at MVA and I fully support their efforts. And it's really urgent to really move fast. I don't think this is like, let's figure this out 2 years from now. We need to do something quickly, especially now that our tourism numbers are low. Now is the time to reboot, strategize, and implement. And so I'm very hopeful. Again, I'll have the managing director explain some of these initiatives on her own time. But yeah, it's unfortunate, Senator Manglonia, that we don't have enough. Even in, I often hear, even in social media, like, oh, rota's delicious, right? But when I go there, it's, unless I know a family that has a finakpo or someone's birthday, I cannot go find the delicious food in Rota because you can't really find it at the restaurants, right? There is no Chamorro or local restaurant in Luta. So but that's everywhere, and that's where we need to just work, have a plan, work. Maybe we can talk about incentives, how to incentivize businesses. Maybe we give them, if you're certified at Chamorro, Carolinian majority on your menu restaurant, maybe you pay less BGR, right? These little things that we can provide a carrot in front of businesses. Even hotels, unfortunately, we have more Polynesian cultural dances than Chamorro and Carolinian dances at the hotels. They infuse a little bit, but again, not enough. And part of the issue, in my opinion and in my observation, is when you have Chamorro and Carolinian, or even some that already are sort of localized, been here all their life, they even speak better in Chamorro and Carolinian than some of us. So it's not necessarily by blood, but once you've adopted the culture And if you're in a position of management authority, I noticed that the product tends to come out. The Chamorro and Carolinian culture tends to come out. So, encouraging our people to take on management positions in the hospitality and tourism industry, I think is key. Because I think if you have pride in your culture, you're more likely to it's gonna come out in the things that you do. It's hard, right? If like, I would never serve on the Chinese authorities board or some other Asian country's tourist board because I don't know their culture. Right? It's gonna be so fake for me to just try and pretend that I know how to promote the Chinese culture or the Singaporean culture or whatnot. So I think it's important, and even at the MVA board level, no discredit to anyone that has not fully adopted our culture at the MVA board, but it's important. We value the perspectives of every board member, regardless of your, ethnicity. But I think it's important to really have that kind of first-hand knowledge and gut feel of what would work, what we want to show the rest of the world. So.
No, and thank you for pointing that out, because you also did mention in your opening or in your statement that we fall victim to the self-interest priority. But that's why you have Hand Me as part of the board. This is something that could be relayed to them and be like, can there be more focus on the Chamorro Carolinian culture when it comes to dinner shows or activities? But also, we don't see that collaboration between MVA and the Office of Carolinian Affairs or Indigenous Affairs Office to maybe offer more activities on the weekends or at nights for tourists, right? I was in Guam this past weekend and I attended the Micronesian Island Fair, and even the scene in my booth itself, where we had students who were performers but also took the time to weave and do the beads on Carolinian accessories. Those were very interactive. They were interacting with the tourists, right? People that were coming by. And so I think that's where we also could try to focus on, is building this relationship with other government agencies to fill in those gaps that we don't see from the private sector. We have the Carolinian UT area where they can utilize on a nightly basis or on a weekly basis. Kids are out for the summer. That's something that the kids can do in the day for other youth tourists that are coming in. But and that's the issue that we see, is there isn't enough authentic cultural experience, and it's even difficult to explain to someone who's visiting the CNMI for their first time. So I hope that that's something that could be also part of the focus with this branding strategy group consultant that's here, and that could be portrayed to them. Another issue that I wanted to bring up, fortunately I don't see him anymore, but we have a board member, Maritita from Rhoda, who's also part of the grants office, who has been instrumental in trying to get some of the display up in our islands, throughout the islands. And I don't know if you've seen that, these fiberglass structures all around the island. But that's kudos to OGM and to him also as part of that. But even from MBA itself, have you seen a Rhoda sign that's been there all these years, but yet Saipan constructed a new one that says Hafere and Tiro? I'm like, where's our share, right? And so we see that throughout Tinian, throughout Saipan, but nothing for Rhoda. So there really isn't much focus, and I've always said this in prior meetings with MBA, whether it be through confirmation hearings or budget hearings, is that MBA is used to just throwing money at the mayor's office and say, here's for your events. But there's no follow-up with the return on investments that MBA has made to Rhoda Tinian. Yes, Rhoda Tinian, Saipan gets their hotel occupancy tax. That's one way that our mayors can utilize these funds to help, host these events. But what is MBA doing to try to get tourists to come in and say, if you come in May, there's all these activities lined up that you can visit Tinian, that you can visit Rhoda, that you can come to Saipan for taste, all of that. Like, even just now looking at the website, there is a calendar of activities. We see San Jose Tinian Festival, contact mayor's office. Come on, MBA is the marketing agency of the Commonwealth, right? Let's show some videos or pictures of what they can experience from these events, so that tourists, when they're planning their vacation, they can kind of align their itinerary with what's happening within the CNMI. Additionally, some issues that we have in Rota, for example, is right now there are two airlines that services the inner island. All two islands for one of the airline, and then one between Rota and Guam. I mean, I think it's easier for Rota to get its tourists from Guam right now than it is to get tourists that comes in from Japan through Saipan, right? And so where's the assistance with trying to assist airlines in offering more flights to Rota between Rota and Guam? I know, for example, Micronesia Air, right? They're looking at expanding services between Rota and Guam. The issue is the CBP clearance. Yes, MVA provide a laptop to do virtual clearance, but where's the assistance also with MVA in saying, CBP, let's work something out. Can we, expedite this process quicker so that we can bring in more tourists? But all of these are stuff that, I hope that the board can consider, and that's why also in the past I've also made it clear, like, maybe we should restrict the board chairmanship to someone who's appointed by the governor, right? Somebody who truly represents the interests of the entire Commonwealth or the islands they represent, inclusive of the entire Commonwealth, as opposed to maybe somebody whose best interest would be to support their organization or their group. But those are just stuff I wanted to bring up because it's always been shared in these prior meetings, but we haven't really seen any progress to that request or to those recommendations. And so I hope that's something that you can also assist in these board meetings in pushing forth some of these issues that I'm sharing with you today. Additionally, in the past, we've had summits hosted by MVA for legislators to get us acquainted with what's going on and what the plans are. We haven't had one in the past 2 or 3 terms, and I hope that's something that could be reconsidered so that we can also be kept abreast of what's going on and how we can support MVA in its efforts to continue to promote the CNMI. Where do you stand in regards to promoting in China or Hong Kong or countries outside the norms like Korea or Japan?
First, I want to, before I answer your question, good question, Senator, Floor Leader, I want to apologize for addressing you as Senator Mendiola at the Chamber event. I will never do that again. And Floor Leader Manglonia, thank you for your question and your comments earlier. But my stance towards markets is simple, right? If the market is available, meaning flights can come to the CNMI, then we should pursue that, right? That market, if it's available and profitable and something we want and can. Unfortunately, with geopolitical tensions and between China and the U.S., that market is unfortunately not available for us at this time. May not be forever, but at this time, with the suspension or pause of EVS TAP, the visa that allows visa-free entry for Chinese tourists from mainland China, and issues with Annex 6 of the U.S. and China Air carrier agreement. These are things that are outside of our control, and I understand our delegate King Hines is working on those matters. What I like to focus on the things that we can control, right? Because that's the things we can control, and what we can control is looking at other markets outside of our traditional source markets, right? But it has to make sense financially, right? It has to make sense, just in practicality, right? It'll be hard to convince people from another tropical island in the Mediterranean to come here because it's just so far, right? So our market really is in the proximity, right? Asian markets, and it always has been. And it's just people right now, based on air technology or air travel technology, people are only willing to travel to our types of destinations at under 6 hours, right? Because of what we have to offer and our type of destination. But at the branding meeting earlier, they shared about the next generation of aircraft, which is changing the industry dynamics. The new next generation of aircraft, both Airbus and Boeing, is going to allow flights to be more economically feasible, to fly longer and smaller. So smaller planes, single aisle seats, like the 737 MAX and Airbus, I forgot the name, but they're going to be more fuel efficient, which would keep the cost down and allow planes to travel farther, maybe a little faster and at a lower cost. So when the next generation of aircraft comes out in the next few years, we hope that that would open up our market a little bit to perhaps Australia, other parts of the Pacific who may want to travel here, and even further parts of Asia, and maybe even Russia one day when things normalize with that country. So I'm not opposed to any market that would love to experience the Hafades and Tiro spirit. Unfortunately, fortunately, we're close to Asia, and so we need to capitalize on those countries that are close to us, those people, those visitors that are close to us. So we're limited in that respect. But if I may comment on your earlier statements about looking at all those other areas, I look forward to meeting with you personally and with members of the Senate to really go over. If you know me well enough, I'm very easy to talk to, and I think I was told by my wife that I'm a good listener. And so I can listen well and hear your sentiments and your ideas, because that's where it is. We have a lot of ideas. Again, it's just getting those ideas and turning them into action and implementation, and that's what I want to do. I don't like to just talk and no action. I'm a small business owner, and if I don't get things done, my boss, my wife will be on me. And so I grew up in the private sector, and so I always I'm always on my toes. I gotta get things done. Rather than the estagupa mentality, I want to get things done, and for good reasons. So, but I'm all ears. You have a lot of good concerns regarding Luta. I have a connection to Luta every time I go there for some reason, and my wife has Toves family from Luta, and my dad Chafaru's from Luta too. So I feel like I'm connected. I'm not Lutanese, but I am in a way. So I feel when I go to Luta and I see the conditions there of the people and the tourism infrastructure, and it shouldn't be that way. And so I promise to do everything I can to never forget Luta and Tinian as well. Tinian is sort of easier because it's close to the Sinamay. I'm also, if I may just share, I'm also part of the ferry feasibility study. I wear a lot of hats, sorry, but as part of a ferry feasibility study that's ongoing right now, and I'm very encouraged of the possibility of connecting our islands via ocean to Tinian and Luta. And I think once we get the air service up, more planes from Guam to Luta, for example, and the ferry service, it's going to still take a few years, but I feel a lot of promise for our future. Fortunately, now it's very difficult and budgets are squeezed, and we have to figure out how to pull a rabbit out of a hat sometimes, but we will get through this. We have a lot of good ideas from yourselves and the community, and as long as we have the right leadership and the right approach and be open to ideas, even if we don't agree sometimes, we'll get it done.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Sorry. My colleague and I were just talking earlier about how when they say Sinamay, they associate it with Saipan, and then earlier you said Tinian's close proximity to the Sinamay, but I know you meant Saipan, but it was just a joke that we were discussing earlier. But again, I appreciate your comments on that, and there's a lot that I think MBA can do to really work with what we already have established. Like again, in kind of having each island have an identifier or like something that tourists can associate an experience with each of the islands, there's a lot of opportunities to work with the locals. For example, in Rota, you know, if MBA can have someone or an entity work with the fishermen down there, or like the tour or the hikers that can provide these experience. Similarly to, again, going back to the Caribbean Affairs Office, we can really offer a lot of activities to our tourists. I mean, even Guam GVB president at the time was saying that even on Guam they struggle because tourists are only satisfied for like 2 or 3 days and then they're bored after that. But within the CNMI, since we have the 3 different islands and the uniqueness of each island, we can offer a longer experience to tourists coming into the CNMI. Another thing, and this has always been brought up, is sports tourism. I mean, hopefully MBA can also look at that avenue and work with NMCL to invite athletes to come down and compete, whether it be through a competition or something of those sorts, like what we saw in the paper yesterday with students coming into PSS and learning from our education system here. That's another way that we can also approach this. One more thing that I wanted to bring up is, I think also it's just the information that is being disseminated out there through the MBA office. I mean, you know, I follow them on social media and look through their sites for the events that are happening, and it's very hard to find information out there, especially if I'm even a local trying to go to Pika Fest. It's very hard to find information about how can we get there, or what activities or what hotels are available that we can look into. Even my brother, who hasn't been home for a while, that came over Christmas, was like, how do I get my ticket from Saipan to Rota, right, without any information about the smaller aircrafts flying in and out of Rota? Or like people even from the US that wants to visit the CNMI, they say it's like over 2,000 just to go to CNMI via United, right? But I can find a ticket to Seattle for $800, right, round trip. That's through Korea, and Korea to wherever in the US. You know, those are some options that we can also share and push out with people wanting to visit the CNMI. So I hope that's something that also can be considered moving forward. But that is, thank you, Mr. Guerrero, for your time here this afternoon, and that's all I have for now, Chair.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Mr. Guerrero, do you need to use the restroom? Is it okay to
No,
proceed?
please proceed.
At this time, we'd like to recognize the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Carl Neighbors.
Thank you, Chairman Cruz, and Hafaday and Tiro. Mr. Guerrero, thank you for, first of all, accepting this appointment made by the Governor and Lieutenant Governor. And thank you for taking the time out to be here to really go through a lot of these questions. I know this is a long form kind of back and forth, but it really is so beneficial for us to understand kind of where you're coming from and what you bring to the table. I really appreciated what you said in regards to how you approach some of the issues. You do like to talk, but you also like to listen and collaborate. I think that's one of the most essential components in really trying to affect change. None of us are, though some of us might be experts in fields, it's always great to have other opinions, different viewpoints that might add to the value of the overall idea and pushing things forward. So I commend you for that. I did want to kind of shift gears in regards to, I know the dialogue has been mostly about the promotion of the Marianas to the world, and that is the charter, the mandate of MBA. But I wanted to kind of pick your brain and find out, how do you feel about the state of our economy in your capacity as you know, the president of the Chamber of Commerce?
It feels depressing at times, but those who know me, I'm always optimistic.
Sure.
And and I'm optimistic for good reason. Um, we still have one of the cleanest places in the world. Our oceans are beautiful. People are friendly. We're fairly peaceful place and safe place. So that gives me a lot of optimism, and but today is a struggle. Right? I mean, Kensington recently, I don't know if it was today, but they recently closed.
Yeah.
I know they're closing for renovation, but they may not have the energy to open up until things normalize with the air service. It's really difficult, and some of these things are no fault of anyone. We're
Correct.
just we are victims to what's happening in around the world. Um, the currency exchange rates, the U.S. dollar being stronger than a lot of the Japanese yen and the Korean won, our main customers for now, it doesn't help us. But that should not stop us. I think those countries are so big. There's still a lot of people that want to come here. I was here on T-Way a couple of weeks ago, and the plane was full. Jeju, same, going over there, the plane was full. So there's not a lack of demand. It makes it harder to market, but I think we're not. The exchange rate it makes it harder, but it's not a game stopper. The other things that are affecting us, in my view, is the lack of aircraft availability. What I'm hearing and in speaking with some airlines already, or certain the representatives, is they want to come here. Jeju wants to add more flights. T-Way wants to add more flights. Skymark, I believe, wants to come here, but there's not enough planes because there's a shortage of planes at Boeing and Airbus as well, but particular Boeing. And so that's affecting us. Again, it's no fault of our own. We don't control what happens at Boeing and the availability of the materials. Now there's the turmoil with tariffs around the world. If that continues, that will, unfortunately, I think, end up affecting us in one way or another. Again, it's aircraft availability, and so exchange rates, aircraft availabilities are stacked up against us. But now is the time that even though these things are out of control, we need to be laser focused. As governors told me, Joe, be laser focused. Don't care what's being played out on the media or candid news. Just do your work, do your best, and don't forget about. I mean, don't worry about the politics. I said, Gov, I'm not I'm not in the political sphere, so don't worry. I'm just gonna do my job. And so, I think if we're laser focused on what we want, when things turn around and when aircraft starts becoming available and the stars are aligned with the currency and other factors, federal policy against China, for example, or other countries, then we'll be in the right spot to really take us where we want to go. But even when we say take us where we want to go, right? There's been talk. I was part of the Governor's Council of Economic Advisors under the prior administration, and one of the things that we really talked a lot about, and the governor then was very, very sincere, and the people in the council, was about right sizing. It's not just about numbers, it's about quality. We'd rather get one tourist that spends twice as much as opposed to many tourists that spend very little. So, and so we even came out with a number, like what is the number? If we had double the spending power of a tourist, how much numbers? And we came up with 500,000, I mean maybe 600,000 max, where that's the number that we want, and that would fill up the rooms well, but we would be generating maybe even more revenue than when we had 750,000 tourists coming to the islands, for example. So I think we also need to be careful about how much we grow in terms of number of bodies on the ground. We'd rather have fewer people staying longer and spending more. That's part of the branding initiatives and MVA's mindset right now in speaking with the managing director. It's not about quantity, it's quality. So we don't necessarily need maybe more hotels, we just need better hotels. More hotels that attract the higher spenders.
A better hotel experience.
Better hotel experience with the right cultural experiences. So we don't need budget hotels. We need more fancier or higher star hotels that would attract the people that we want here.
Higher inclined NMCL.
Yeah, there's a big issue globally in tourism, and again, it was brought up in the branding workshop this morning. And I experienced this myself in my last two trips. Is overcrowding. Um, People are filling up beaches. People are going to sites. You go to Disneyland, it takes you 2 hours to go on a kid ride. So there's a problem. Tourism is growing very well. Unfortunately, not here right now, but in other places that are accessible. It's overcrowding, and they're having issues. In Barcelona recently, they spray painted on the wall, "Tourists go home," and they're protesting, throwing things at a tourist bus. Right? We should ask those tourists to come here, right? Put up a sign in Barcelona and advertise the cinema. But it's an issue, and so we have to be maybe mindful and prepared for the type of tourism that we want. And so I hope I answered your question
You
directly. But yes, things are not doing well. It's no secret. The numbers are there. The numbers don't lie. I hear it every day from businesses, both small and big. They're struggling,
Yeah.
and so we MVA, I understand, and the administration, and speaking with the governor directly, that he's committed to rolling up his sleeve and making it happen. I think if we all help each other out and share ideas freely and just be laser focused, we'll get it done. Tourism should not be partisan. Should be non-partisan and a collective effort for everybody.
How does they say? Tourism should be everyone's business.
Yes.
I appreciate your candor, and I also appreciate how you understand the nuances, that it isn't fix one thing and everything is roses and rainbows. Like there are, again, component to kind of reiterate what you said. There are things within our control, and then there are things that are outside of our control. And to understand that will better allow us to address what we can control, and hope that can push us forward, withstanding all of the external forces, right? Now, so I think important, and I thank you for saying that it's a struggle right now. I think that it's important for us to really fully accept and appreciate the current state that we're in, and because only in doing so it will allow us to really drive down to the core of some of the decision making that we need to processes. In that vein, I wanted to. I know you're going into the MVA. You're being appointed to the MVA board, but I wanted to kind of shine a light on the hot funds. If the hot funds are obviously hotel occupancy taxes that you would collect, and it plays a major role in your operations in MVA and your ability to stay up and provide the services that you need on behalf of the Marianas to the world. They're also an integral component of what the first and all the senatorials rely on those funds for everything from ground maintenance. On Tinian, we don't have a park and rec division. That a lot of it is funded through the hot funds that are given to us, and we rely heavily on the projections. Now, I wanted to just kind of relate to you, if you didn't already know, the current allocation for this year's hot funds is just about 6 point. I'm sorry. It is we're at almost $8 million, $7 million, and we're up from 4.5, 5. And this is an increase of about 61%. And I guess the question I'm asking you, not political, this is just a function of being logical and understanding what we're trying to accomplish, right? The budget is an integral component where the projections need to be right, because if we forecast wrong, then that can throw everything into disarray. And so my question is, you knowing what you know, being president of this Chamber of Commerce, you also being with a small business community, and just to state, is it a realistic goal for us to assume that we're going to hit a 61% increase in tourism, knowing that just this year we're down 22.37% from this time last year. So, and then you know that the numbers have been precipitously dropping, right? So, I guess my question to you is, knowing that, going back to what you were saying, the easiest way for us to grow is to collect all of the near markets, right? The geographically close markets. Obviously, we're not asking to come from the Mediterranean. That's a little a bridge too far, a field too far. But knowing that the market pool that we're asking to, or we're hoping to try to tap into, do you think that that's enough to facilitate a possible 61% increase in the very sector, right, that has been falling off the cliff?
Thank you for your question. I'm gonna assume, or maybe I can ask, those projections, when were they made?
This was the budget submission for
For in April?
yeah.
Okay, so I know the news. I'm aware that the news of T-way cancellation of flights didn't come until after the budget was prepared. Because I asked that same question to the governor, like, how does the effect of some of these flight cancellations are? And he said, it's gonna go down, obviously. So I'm sure he's aware that they have to relook at the numbers, right? So it was made based on, I guess, best projections of the Secretary of Finance, based on, they get information from MBA, from HANMI, and stakeholders. So if the projections have changed, then we need to change the numbers, right? The budget. And I think that's any time of the year. I think we need to adjust and shift, right? If there's war, God forbid, on a big scale in our area, and people are not traveling here, then we need to adjust the budgets right away and not wait till we actually see it drop, right? We need to react faster. So, with regard to the hotel occupancy tax, we hope that we get there to that number, but I don't know. I don't have enough information, and I know there are some sort of intention to increase their flight schedules towards the end of the year as planes again become available from various airlines, and even T-way and Jeju. I heard they want to actually increase flights, add more flights, but they can't because they don't have the aircraft. So the demand is there now from Korea. They just don't have the aircraft. And so until such time, I don't know what the impact is going to be on that forecast for the budget. One thing I do know that we can perhaps explore is there is a bill. I'm not sure if it's here in the House. I'm almost sure it's in the House, but it was a bill called the Transient Accommodations Tax, which was to repeal the HOT and redo it, so that would it incorporate the non-traditional guest houses, Airbnbs, and that type. Yeah. So I know it was part of that formulation of that bill, working with then Secretary of Finance Atalik and the AG's office to really look and forecast, and my forecast was the most optimistic. And that I said that we, in 2017, if we had that HOT bill, that bill to capture taxes from the Airbnbs, we were losing between $8 to $10 million a year in HOT taxes. Now with the situation, maybe we're losing $1 million in HOT taxes, $1 to $3 million. So if we can please prioritize that bill, because that's just money that's not coming in that should help pay for. Be mindful that tourists come in and they're not being charged the HOT, but then they enjoy the parks in Tinian and Rota that's well maintained, right? But they're not paying for it in essence because they're staying at an Airbnb. So every jurisdiction in the United States, even Guam, has a similar bill where they allow Airbnb to collect the tax, the HOT tax, and remit it to finance. So we need to pass that. It's a no-brainer. That thing was vetted by many people in the industry. And I heard Airbnb and the others, online booking, are ready to sign with the CNMI government so that they can start remitting taxes, collecting taxes and remitting to the CNMI right away. So to me, that's low-hanging fruit to get a little windfall while we struggle with the general air service. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And just one last question. In your opinion, in the event that we do have a drastic influx in tourism, and we want to do exactly what was spoken about with Senator McGoffin and yourself, to have more traditional uh, experiences, and would we would which one would have to come first? I guess, do we need to scale up the businesses because so many businesses have shuttered and closed down? Or is this an opportunity for them once we grow our tourism market back to where it should be, or where pre-pandemic, pre-U2, is that then the opportunity for the small businesses to open up and be a part of this new possible economic stream?
In general, businesses thrive when they have customers. They don't thrive when there are grants available, or subsidies, in tourism in particular. So, businesses will open up just naturally, organically, when there's more tourists and more dollars circulating. But the money that's collected, or possibly collected, right, from an increase in business, then we can reserve those funds. And I'm a believer that you shouldn't, just because you have the funds, that you have to spend it all. We need to save for a rainy day, maybe invest in an endowment fund that can just give us that perpetual money to fund certain programs that we believe in. So that's something that I'm not very familiar with the government budgeting process, but I cringe when I hear that, oh, we got to spend it because the fiscal year is over. I was like, but we're still open on October 1st. Why don't you save that and use that strategically on October 1st?
Yeah.
So the other thing that I would like to add, which addresses funding and how to encourage certain behavior. Businesses are profit oriented, right? And they're there to make a living and provide for people's jobs, but also to make a return on their investment for their investors. So oftentimes, even though when we encourage businesses to, hey, try this, offer this, local this, they're not going to do it unless it makes financial sense to them, and sometimes they just look at the short-term financial gain rather than the long-term picture of
Sustainability.
the sustainability, right, of the market. And so in Hawaii, for example, they have I don't know the exact name, but it's like a historical preservation fund. So every time you're you're renovating a hotel, you're building a new hotel, there's a tax, and it's like an infrastructure development fund. But that fund is to be used towards cultural preservation within the community. So they fund parks in Hawaii, and that's why you have nice statues in Hawaii. Those are fully funded by development in Hawaii over the years. But there's so much money in that pot that's been sometimes used for many different things that make Hawaii what it is today. Clean streets and nice facilities in Waikiki. So I think we need to look at that, and that was something we talked about in the Governor's Council as well, is instituting a tax for new development. I know the Crown Plaza is looking to expand. There's Mariana's or Elan or some other investor trying to lease the public lands over there. So I'd be happy to work with you to come up with a similar development tax. The nice thing about something like that tax, it just doesn't go into a black hole. It actually has to be purposed towards cultural preservation. And you can actually offset some of that tax by building things within your hotel or properties that actually promote culture. So if you have a lobby, for example, and the motifs, you're gonna put a design that really makes it feel like you're promoting culture, or you're in the islands, then you can use that extra cost of doing that on your property against this tax. So it encourages people to, again, instill culture. You put in every room, if you put a picture of painting of the Taka house, then you can count that cost as a credit towards the tax. So now people think like, okay, I'm not just going to give it to the government, who I don't know where they're going to spend it around. I'm going to spend as much as my tax in my property. And so that's why in Hawaii you have a lot of, in the property, especially in Waikiki, you see Hawaii, you feel the culture, and you see the history even within the hotel property. So that's something we can do here again, not reinvent the wheel.
I would say you can feel the aloha, Right.
Yes, yeah. And it's not by accident, right? There's
No.
there's little carrot there. There's, well, a tax, but there's the carrot of using that in your property. So we can easily do that here.
Thank you. And I do recall your presentation during the Governor's Council. That was 5 years ago, I believe, when I sat in on that. I had the opportunity to watch your presentations, and also it wasn't lost on us on the Second Senatorial. We took our opportunity, as you said. Now that there is no tourist, we really don't have a lot of foot traffic, is the opportunity for us to really make the renovations and make it a place that tourists want to come. So we took your advice to heart, and we tried our best to make modifications, to add signage, to add tables, lights, pathways, so that when tourism comes back up, hopefully we have something that they can appreciate. And so I wanted to thank you also for that. I don't have any more questions. You are obviously well aware of quite quite a vast amount of information, not just pertaining to marketing of the Marianas, but also a holistic approach of tourism and marketing. And I thank you for, again, taking this opportunity to accept the appointment, and I wish for you all the best.
This is well said.
Ayo, Chair.
Thank you, Vice President. I now recognize Senator Cobb.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to also thank the Governor and Lieutenant Governor for their endorsement of Joe Guerrero to the MVA board. We, through all the testimonies out there and also the Q&As, going back to the theme, how you state that you had so many innovative ideas. I hear it as we converse. The Hafaday and Tiro pledge is coming along the way. We have a lot of, how they say, you cannot control the global air issues and industries, the global political shift, but it's what we can control. And these are some of the testimonies and things that you have prioritized, you have shared regarding, and the written testimonies with everyone regarding how we can promote our CNMI in a different fashion and a different way as far as market diversity. I like the way you mentioned, quality versus quantitative, promoting our culture, and then even the budget and the logistics and it all. So in wrapping up, we look forward to, deliberating and supporting. My personal opinion is supporting you as a great candidate for this position. Thank you so much. I yield, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Cobb. And Mr. Guerrero, susumasi ini when accept na talo no volunteer na tsotso. I know that back in 2012 we in confirm para public utility commissions. This is not an easy job, no. You come in and you devote your free time to serve the government to deliver services to the general public, and I appreciate that. I know that my colleagues have raised questions and concerns in regards to perhaps how we can improve the MVA, right? Because this is the only, I think, the main source of our economic growth is tourism. And it was mentioned in regards to Guam, and I think it's a good idea to collaborate with Guam Visitor Bureau, right? So in order for example, they have tourists coming to Guam, maybe MBA can collaborate that right after Guam, maybe 2 days in the cinema, something like that, so it can help us with our ailing economy. And talking about attraction, I know it was mentioned about attracting, and you mentioned also about it's not the quantity, it's the quality, bringing a lot of tourists and not spending. We appreciate spending small, but we need big spenders. So I think we should not miss verification, because I remember back then, I'm 15 years, almost 16 years in the Senate, and I have witnessed and I heard members of the community, hotel, how many members that in order to attract tourism, we have to beautify our island. I remember back then that MBA has a lot of money, 800 some $1,000 for beautification, but that was not done. And you know, if in the near future that we have those kind of funding, I think we should start, you know, doing something like all those tourist sites, you know, beautify those with nice plants or even flower. I remember in China, people want to go to China to see some historical, you know, especially climbing the Great Wall, and they're making a lot of money, and it attracts a lot of tourists. In Taiwan, they want to see the biggest Buddha. So I think we should. It's a matter of working together with other agencies here, because I know that MBA cannot do it alone. If, for example, beautification, you need to collaborate with the municipality, the mayor's office, and maybe perhaps I'm not trying to put the local delegation, but you know, it's a matter of working together, because I know funding is an issue, especially the managing director mentioned about what 27% decrease in tourist arrival compared to last year. And you know, when we hear something like that, we talk about money. So that's why it's a collaboration effort with other agency. I think working together, not just MBA, but we need MBA to come out and, you know, reach out to other agencies that we can work together in order to, you know, to attract tourists. Not because the tourist arrival is decreasing, but in the if the time comes and they come, you know, they see our island, and you know, we put some cosmetic on a tourist site, you know, just like in China, Taiwan. I'm not you know, I don't plan, but when I see nice flowers and nice trees that are being, you know, groomed very neat, you know, I like to take picture. So I can bring back as a souvenir. So you know, tourists that coming over, they want to take picture and bring it back to the island, and maybe perhaps they can, you know, just that picture that I took is just like a promoting the cinema. People would like to see. I want to see that. Like, for example, the Latte Stone. If they see that huge Latte Stone, you know, some people they wanna see that. The beaches. So again, it's a matter of you know, collaboration and cooperation with other agency to beautify our island. And in regards to cultural, I think the floor leader mentioned about indigenous office, and I think it's not bad to you know, collaborate with historical preservation. And they have some historical side that needs to be beautified. I'm pretty sure some tourists from Japan or Korea want to see some of those, you know, artifacts. Because I know that artifacts is priceless. Some people really like to see those sites. So, like I said, you know, let's reach out to other agencies that we can work together and see how we can improve and promote the cinema. But if MBA is doing it alone, I don't think MBA. I know that I see your credential. You're you know, you're more than qualified to be in any board based on your credential. But if the other agency is not cooperating, collaborating, you know, it doesn't, you know, it's not helping to improve of what we're trying to do. So again, I really appreciate your interest in continue to serve in this capacity, although it's not, you don't get paid unless you attend a meeting. Other than that, you're just devoting your free time to serve and help the Commonwealth in trying to alleviate the hardship that everyone is you know, is experiencing. So again, thank you. And anybody else who recognize Senator Castro?
Just based on all the statements earlier, I just wanted to ask if you can look into some of these concepts. When I was in Rhoda, the Rhoda Chamber mentioned about, you know, they don't really, someone in the, I don't want to say who, but prominent person in the chamber mentioned that there's so many abandoned homes that can be retrofitted and renovated and turned into a Airbnb rather than another big development. And in that sense, you're helping the locals. At the same time, on island, I know that there were some hotel operators that were against Airbnb in the very beginning, because like it's also a threat to their enterprise. But if you look at the airlines that are coming in, most of them are low cost carriers, and you know the customers on those, they like to stay at Airbnbs. But there's one feature in addition to the tax that you mentioned earlier, but there's a Airbnb host, you know, like where the people that operate the Airbnbs, they can also be a host of cultural experiences and tours, and so that it's a multiplier effect, because not only are you getting tourists, you're also teaching our local community members to be entrepreneurs, to be more involved in the Hafaday Tiro pledge more directly. So I hope that the MVA can look at those types of opportunities. At the same time, in terms of infrastructure, CODA, for example, collaborating with them to have an app, because I see all these, sometimes I see tourists riding the bus and they're there for like 40 minutes under the hot sun, but if there's an app that can tell them where the bus is at, maybe they can shop some more or not be under that by the side of the road. And I've rode on just to experience it, and it did take a while for the bus to get to the bus stop. So fortunately, I was at the grant's office, so I could wait under their staircase. But I wanted to experience that service that our government is providing, so my kids and I boarded that bus, but it did take a while. So when I was on Guam, I also tried out the Stroll Guam app, which is their version of Uber and Lyft. And again, that's another mode of transportation that's very common, rideshare programs. Perhaps someone on island, MBA can help collaborate in getting more of our people again to participate in programs like that. In terms of airlines, right now Alaska Airlines or Hawaiian Airlines, they're going to be having flights from Seattle and later on Portland to Japan. So you know, maybe talking to them, seeing if they can extend the leg down. I also spoke to Representative Ruffridge in Alaska, that like even people in Alaska, they have to fly to Seattle to get to Asia. So you know, somehow maybe dialogue with other types of airlines, low-cost carriers that are looking for these types of more affordable travel arrangements, like even Zip Air, which is under JAL, rather than going to Korean Air, the big flagship that but basically also diversifying our tourism as we rebrand. Educational tourism, the college is building up. It's authorized to have F1 and M visas, and there's other educational providers that have that caliber. So you can use the M visas for like maybe sports tourism, like golfing lessons. We have a lot of famous Korean golfers that come here. Sometimes they fill up the Jeju aircraft, all golfers, coaches and people wanting to learn how to play golf. And then at the same time, domestic tourism. There's people on Guam that would want to come here and try the pigigi on island because it's more authentic, I guess. But we need to look into those businesses because some of them are making mochi at Pigigi, and that's a problem. But just like you said, I really like your vision on some things don't cost. It might be free. Just some simple collaboration and looking at to what we can control, what's existing, and just trying to enhance that product or service. Thank you, and also thank you to your family, and thank you to the governor for nominating you. Thank you for your continued service to our community, and I'm really happy to see someone that is from that space represent from a policy making and kind of like in the leadership position that's needed because you feel the struggle. So thank you. Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Senator Castro. You wish to say something?
If we're gonna wrap up already, I'd like to just acknowledge and thank my family and friends and other folks that came to show their support. I told them it's not necessary, but they still wanted to come. So I appreciate you guys, and also most especially the senators, all of you for your kind words of encouragement, your ideas. I hope this is just a start of sharing and collaborating. I'm very easy to get a hold of. Many of you have my own cell phone number. Perhaps call me anytime, and we can go over some of these ideas over a beer or in Tinian or Rhoda. So I'm here to help and happy to be of service to the community. Sisu Sumasi, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero, and I appreciate your family, Mr. Tony Guerrero, and your wife and the family for coming and supporting. And I was hoping that maybe perhaps 80% of MBA staff will be here too, so we can see that they will support you coming in, and that's what we're looking for. No. But anyway, I wish you the best of luck if the blessing is given to you by the full members.
The MVA staff, many of them are at the branding workshop because there's an afternoon session in Magagigi, Marianas Beach Resort, and they're in support. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishes to? That's it? Okay. Thank you. All public comments are well taken. Let the record reflect that all written testimonies, I take it back. I apologize, Mr. Devin McCronis. Can you please disclose letters that are submitted, whether in support or not?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mr. Guerrero, and members of the general public, in addition to the oral testimonies received today, please be advised of 8 additional written testimonies officially received in support of the appointee from Tracy Guerrero, General Manager of Atkins Kroll Saipan, Kim Camacho, Executive Director of the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, Warren F. Villagomez, and Marvin De Leon Guerrero, members of the Marianas Visitors Authority Board of Directors, the Honorable Julie Marie A. Ogo, Congresswoman of the House of Representatives, Brock Calvo, Marketing Director and Partner of Turnkey Solutions LLC, Bartley A. Jackson, Vice President of Bridge Capital LLC, and Bo T. Palacios, Vice President of JC Tenorio Enterprises Incorporated. At this time, no written testimony in opposition to the nominee's appointment have been received by the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Devin. Let the record reflect that all written testimonies will be included in the Senate Standing Committee Recommendation Report, along with all oral testimonies, and will be forwarded before the full Senate members in consideration for confirmation or rejection. At this time, before we adjourn, I would like to extend on behalf of the members of the Standing Committee our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Oliver Gonzalez, the Governor Palacios and the Governor Apatang's representative, the appointee, Mr. Joseph C. Guerrero, and most especially the members of the general public for your participation and involvement during this important public hearing process. And we certainly hope that we continue this dialogue of communication between us, the elected officials, and the public to keep you abreast and informed of our current and future Senate hearings ahead that relates to public best interest. At this time, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chair, I offer a motion to adjourn, subject to the call of the chair.
Second.
There's a motion for adjournment and was seconded. All in favor of that motion say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. This public hearing is now officially adjourned. Thank you.